right, what's going on, believers? We are here with Dustin from the Grifters. And the Grifters, if you don't know what that is a new token that's launching tomorrow. Do you have a time yet on where you're going to launch?
Yeah, it'll be around 11:45 a.m. Pacific. We wanted to make sure the guys in Europe could get in without having to stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Excellent. So, obviously, when we first talked, I thought the name Grifters sounded kind of weird, and I said, "Why?" And you said, "You know what? Wait until you read about it." So, so then I read about it, and now I'm fascinated by the whole concept and the whole idea. So, why don't you explain first of all what I always try to do is what got you into crypto? How did you get into this space, and what got you to Grifters?
well, I think like a lot of people in crypto, I like the gambling side of it. I like the excitement. I traded stocks for a while, primarily in the OTC just because of the they used to say there ain't no gains like those OTC gains, and now there ain't no gains like those crypto gains, right? So
Got that right.
but I'll be honest with you, since I got into it, it's just a different world. It's fascinating, and it's an emerging sort of an emerging growth industry. The things that we're seeing in blockchain and in crypto and the projects in the NFT space, the way that this is all blowing up and evolving is, I mean, it's I feel blessed just to be a part of it right now. To be honest, it's really cool. It's really cool.
I feel like we all do in some way because there's so much. First, there's opportunity that you just didn't know that even existed. I've seen so many people that in my life have just, and I don't want to ever call anybody a nothing, but they just didn't have a direction. They didn't have a focus. They didn't have a place in life to call their own, like a lane. They were always working for somebody else. They were always doing something for somebody else. And suddenly, these people are all feeling the first taste of real freedom and real independence from having to answer to somebody else. They can finally answer to themselves. They made enough money that they can create their own pet projects. They can do whatever it is that they want to do. It's an amazing opportunity, and we're in a golden age right now where people have a tremendous chance to change their lives.
The other thing I think about it is you know I- it one it's kind of like the Wild West, right?
Mhm.
It's about how fast you can get there, but the other side of it that I find really fascinating, and I don't know if you know, but I'm also part of 30 DAO. It's another project that
Yeah.
we have, and but some of that work that we've been doing, there's kind of divergent with this and another project that we're working on as well. And the people that it's kind of brought into my orbit are people that I would have never met in traditional business, right? I mean, these are people that are connected. One's connected to the finance minister in Croatia. One's connected to the guy who owned MGM Studios. It's just a really, because DeFi overall is a very small world, right? I mean, it's growing exponentially, but it doesn't take much to begin to rub elbows with people that in traditional business you would never meet. It's amazing in that regard.
And you're on an equal footing with those people. Like that's the great part about this space is they're no better than anybody else, and you're no better than them when you're in the DeFi space. And
No,
I
and,
think
and I
that's
think that that's one of the cool things about DeFi, right? Is that there isn't a caste system. There's not a socioeconomic status. There's not color. There's not gender. I mean, and all of those things obviously exist, and there are groups that are trying to be more inclusive in that regard. But what it is that I think that everybody here is just I think that we understand that we're really kind of at the start of something that's going to be really, really tremendous. And kind of like the dot-com boom in the 90s and early 2000s, right? I mean, that's
yeah,
kind of where we're at with this. And there's a chance to make a lot of money, but there's also a chance to do some really cool things that have legacy issues tied with them, which I think is cool for me.
yep, yep. It's an opportunity to change. It's an opportunity to change the lives of a lot of people. Like that's and that feels good.
Yeah, oh,
So
for sure.
I like I keep telling people, anybody who will listen to my rants, how crazy it is when I have a conversation like this, And we start talking about a crypto, and you can see here, I'll change the thing real quick here so you can see, like, I have a couple sponsors, people who sponsor the channel, stuff like that. And like people go and they invest in those tokens, and the next thing, and I talk about them a lot, and the next thing you know, like, that thing's doing 3 or 4 or 5 or 10x, 20x, and then people are just like, oh my god, like, you just fixed what was wrong. And like, I didn't do anything. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm just out here trying to do my hustle the same way. And they're like, my life has changed because of this. I can't tell you how many people felt just the best word is wrecked from what had happened with Saitama on their downtrend, and they're consolidating so far down. And how many people felt so great about what was going on with Terrarium and how much money they had been making and how they had almost fixed all of their losses just based on the moves of Terrarium for the last little while. Like, it's just phenomenal when you put people in a position to change their life. And speaking of changing lives,
Well, I was gonna
that
say, that's an interesting thing because neither one of those projects are doing particularly great right now, but I think that they both have. I think that they both have big futures. I think that they've got things internally that they need to work out, and that's
yep,
obviously none of my business. One of the disappointments that I have is I know Willman. I talked to him when they were doing the pre-sale. Willman was one of the early investors in 3.0. I have a lot of respect for Willman. As just I like him as a guy. He's good to talk to.
yeah,
But no, I skipped the pre-sale because I was doing something else with that ETH at the time, but I set up because I'm on the West Coast, and so that launch was at, like, I think it was at 3:30 in the morning, and so, like, I set an alarm and I got up. Well, then it was delayed, and about 4:10, I mean, I have to go to work. I have a full-time job, so and it's about 10 past 4. I thought, well, fuck, I'm just gonna go back to sleep, and then so I didn't get in, and then I bought later in the morning, but then I took some gains and then it had that huge run, and I thought, I mean, with what I had invested, that would have been, a $3 or $4 million gains had I just stuck with it, and
yeah,
I was sick, but that's what they say, the guy from Binance that tweeted that the other day is like, you won't ever get rich if you can't hold, so
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a secret. I sold at the top yesterday, not because I knew anything. I just felt like it was like, once that chart. Sometimes you just feel it, like and
hmm
the Ethereum's pretty predictable. Like, you just felt tired for a second. As soon as it feels tired, then you know something's coming. So I sold the top. Then things started going sideways, and then it just started to hit that bottom. When it hit that bottom, I bought back in, and then it went right back up, and then I sold again, and, and then it went back down again. And so I'm feeling great about my positions. I accumulated
Good. That's good. That's what they
way
say.
more than I
Nobody
should.
ever went broke taking profits, and that's
Yep.
I checked it just 20, 30 minutes ago, and it was trading around 45, I think. And
Yeah.
that's a big decline, but they'll get back to it at some
But you know
point.
what? It was trading at 6 2 days ago. So
Right.
you're not really that far off from where you were to begin with. So I don't think it really matters that much. But let's talk about grifters, and
Yeah.
let's get into this thing and find out what makes
Yeah,
a
you gotta
good
that ADD. You just got to focus me back in.
It's okay. We can absolutely go sideways for a little while. But I want to get into, um, first of all, we're going to talk about the tokenomics. Your tokenomics, it's about 10% going back and forth. 3% reflection, 3% redemption. Now, is the redemption, that's going to be the wallet that we're really kind of going to be focused on as the use,
Right.
and then marketing, and then the development. So explain a little bit about the redemption, and how that kind of plays into it, because that is one of the more fascinating pieces, in the in this entire thing.
Yeah, no, and a lot of projects that come out with these very complex roadmaps, and they're P2E, or we're more about culture and community. That's what this project is focused on. Anybody who spends 5 minutes with me and talks crypto, I think that the most undervalued asset, and I use that term in a business sense, the most undervalued asset that a project has is their community, right? Communities, and Saitama is a perfect example, right? Is
Yeah.
when they were going through that consolidation and all the stuff after Vegas, they had that really strong community that was keeping them above those trend lines, right? And it was they were just kept pumping money in. I mean, they were doing on bad days they were doing 12 million in volume a day, right? That's the power of a community, and and I think that devs who come in and rug projects or poorly plan and poorly execute launches, I don't think that they fully understand that value proposition and the kind of damage that they're doing, but also the kind of money that they're leaving on the table. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
and I talk about what was that project? Metasims over the weekend. You know, and I don't know how many people in their Telegram have been scraped or bought it or whatever it was, but I mean, it was around 7,500 people in that room, and it was an energetic room. You know, when they rugged, and the guy took 200 grand or something and left, and but that's the type of project that we're talking about, right? The same
Yeah.
thing with Suzuki, which is, you have these really strong communities. You potentially have communities that have, leaders that are still around in terms of your lead mods or your admins. You have, potentially some of your marketing folks, depending upon what the relationship is. And, in a lot of cases, if you're able to sort of intervene early, you can help, really rebuild those communities in a short amount of time by offering them a little
Yeah.
bit of dev support, offering them a little bit of marketing support. And and then the business case, I think, is, and I think this is what's unique about Grifters versus other projects, is that we are a community focused project, but we're also a business, right? And so one of the things, and I don't know that everybody's grasping this, because I think this is one of the most important aspects of our project is that every time we go in and help another project, we're going to add a few hundred holders to Grifters,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is going to return green candles back to our community when we're out of that project, or as we're running, excuse me, as we're rebuilding that project. 2% of their revenue will be coming back into Grifters, which will be used for buybacks and burns and other things that have a direct, advantage for our community. In the meantime, we're also, servicing the DeFi ecosystem, and that we're able to go in, help projects, rebuild
Yeah.
them. Because if you remember after Suzuki, I mean, that was RM docs and all of those things. Everybody's renouncing contracts, and everybody has to be docs, and that's just a symptom of people losing faith in DeFi, right? And that's something we can't afford.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, like when you first sent this over to me, and I think, God, it was probably 2 weeks ago when you
Hmm.
first sent this over to me, and I started reading through it. In my mind, when I started seeing this, what I started seeing was what an opportunity you present, especially and I don't know if you're familiar with me or not, but I've been covering specific tokens going way back. I don't cover them much anymore. Like I pop them up every once in a while, but Kishu, Kishu was probably one of the most well-run tokens that had an enormous run right after Shiba went crazy. Kishu was a new startup and it went absolutely bonkers. And I'm pretty sure it was a couple thousand X. If you look at
Uh,
last year's performance, it's one of those big top shining stars. But by the end of the year, its number was way down, and it's not a testament to the developers. It was just that the meme token verse was tired at that point. There was already Shiba, there was already Doge. There was no real use case for anything, and a lot of these tokens, Sanshu, um, Hokkaido, all of these Inu tokens, they just kind of flatlined. And then I started thinking, as soon as you brought this up, I was like, you know what? I wonder what it would be like to just go back to some of these tokens that have real use case or that have developed them over time and get them into an ecosystem in which there's like a shared resource for people to just bring something back to life. Because the problem with these was they don't have dev wallets. So their buys and sells, they rely on uh, they rely on the community to donate in order
oh
for them to
hell.
fund anything. And it was, I mean,
That,
I don't
that's
think,
a that's a tough business to run. Yeah.
yeah, like it's, and I don't think the first dev wallet, I think the first dev wallet was somewhere around Floki V2, which was, I want to say it was about July, maybe August. But before that, there weren't really marketing wallets. Like nobody was making it. Nobody was thinking about anything like that. And then it just suddenly became a thing out of nowhere when people realized that people would pay a tax of some sort in order to get something launched. Then all of a sudden we get a marketing wallet, we get a development wallet, we get the reflection wallet, and then people are paying. In some cases, I think it was as high as 18 to 20% on a few of them on the way in and out. It was unbelievable.
I
Um,
remember when Terra launched. I think like the first 3 weeks they were like 17 in and out, right?
yeah,
I think
yeah,
if
that
I
was.
remember right.
It wasn't in; it was just out. They did a 17% on the way out for. I think I think they meant to do it for a week and ended up doing it for like 3 days because they had achieved whatever goal they wanted or something like that. Like
Okay.
I do remember that happening. But I also
Yeah,
remember there.
I was gonna say they had a big launch day. I mean, it was like I think it was like 12 or 14 million on launch day. I think
Oh, it was
it was a
insane.
big day. Yeah.
I remember the times Saitama last year around November was doing 40 million a day consistently.
I believe it.
It was
I
40
remember there were
million.
times whenever it's when I really begin to understand the business case of these tokens is when I begin to understand the tax and the tokenomics piece of it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to pay attention. And I remember there were days and Saitama was running like 37 million a day in
Yep.
volume, I thought, fuck.
Yeah. They have no marketing wallet, by the way. So imagine that. Like that's the worst part. Yeah, imagine how much they could have done with just a 2% marketing wallet
Right.
at any given point. But take me through the process. Like what I'm a token. I'm out here. I don't have a real use case. I don't really have anything going on here. What what
Yeah, let's so I think right now we're more kind of in what we're kind of calling the strategic phase of this, which
yeah.
is we've been focused on launch. We've sort of identified a problem statement, an opportunity statement. I think next week we've talked about we're going to change the name of it, but it's kind of what we're calling a rapid response team, which is
Yeah.
essentially is we've got one of our guys. He's really heavy in the BSC space. Most of us are in the E space.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody knows DTC. He's heavy into pretty much every chain out there. So but we're pretty plugged in terms
Yeah.
of projects and launches and whatnot. But the idea is when you have one of these high profile projects, being able to sort of reach out, communicate, understand. In some cases, they just will be like, you know what, we got wrecked. We don't want to talk to you.
Right. Right.
And you're definitely going to see that, I think, at some point. But really, it's kind of being able to reach out, understand who are your key stakeholders. What is the opportunity there, right? Did the dev, was it just a single dev who took off with the keys? And now you've got the junior devs and the people that are kind of helping out still around, or, kind of understanding what is the scenario and then being
Yeah.
able to communicate and understand what are their needs, right? Because for us, it's pretty straightforward is we're able to support them pretty much whatever their problem is because of the organization that we have. The cost is laid out within our token or within our white paper, right? It's 2% in tokenomics, and we can help them do whatever we need to do, right? And so it's a pretty straightforward process. I think that when you get into the kind of nuts and bolts, I think there's going to be some complexities that we're going to have to work out over time. But I feel like it's a pretty straightforward process.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably going to be some details that nobody's even accounting for, some
Yeah.
obstacles that are presented that nobody's even going to foresee, especially when you're talking about how many different contracts there are in Solidity. And I know that even though we talk about that, there's really a boilerplate. You can go to GitHub and you can just download a contract, change the names on it, and in 10 minutes you got a token.
Well, and
So
I think, or you go to Fiverr and have one of those guys, right? Which I've heard people doing that a lot, and that's, I don't know, man. You know, maybe it's like I'm speaking from a position of privilege here too. Is because we've got two of the best devs I think in the business. Cap and Wolf. They launched Yeti. They've launched a handful of other projects in addition before they joined our organization. So, and they're pretty well known in the space. But but again, what you just said, I think, is that sort of lends itself to the other side of the redemption program, right? And I
yeah,
use ETH Shib as an example. Those guys launched that project, and I bought into that on Dell. Dell Crypto was pumping that one,
whew,
and yeah, and but anyway, I got into that one at launch, and you know it. it ran up. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a big green and then a big red, like the two candles next to one another. And but you know what? I don't think there was anything malicious there. I think it was just a really poorly planned launch. I think that they didn't account for the Binance Peg Ethereum and how that would all transact. I think that it was just poorly planned, and I think that they lost a lot of value in that project. I mean, their launch I think was around 2 million in the first 30 minutes or something,
Yeah.
right? But now they're turning out 40, 50,000 a day in volume, which is not bad, right? But it's not what it could have been, I think, had they had a successful launch. And I think part of that conversation can be is how can we help you rebuild, right? How can we help you, maintain? And you have to do it within the first 36 hours after launch, otherwise you lose the community, right? And that's
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the things that happen with these SHIB. But if you're able to go in and say, we can, there's a solution that involves additional airdrop tokens for people that bought in this, in these certain blocks. In addition, we're going to work with grifters, and we're going to give out additional BNB or ETH to people. And, there's a way that it can be mutually beneficial, and you can maintain that community before they leave. And I think
Right.
that's
Right.
important, right? Because again, the business case is still there.
Well, they also a lot of this, a lot of the problem is that there's a blueprint, and that blueprint is probably a year and a half old and doesn't work anymore. But everybody still uses that same blueprint on how they do everything from the moment that they launch a token. They're out here like I went to. I can't tell you how many times and I know I see these tokens that are going to die because I can tell you exactly what influencers they're going to use. They're going to use the influencers on Twitter that have a whole bunch of followers that have no engagement, that have nobody, like nobody's going to watch the video, nobody's going to talk to, nobody's going to reply, because what they did is they created, whatever at on their account, and then they said giving away 100 ETH to the next person that likes and follows, and they built a channel based on that, and nobody engages with it. But because they now have 100,000 followers, people will pay a whole bunch of money for it. I get a good amount of engagement. You can look at like my stats just as a comparison, right? You can look at my stats compared to the stats of other influencers in the YouTube space with way, and I mean way more followers, and I get as many views as they do on each select type of video because my people are just a little bit more engaged because I engage with them a little bit more. And I don't like the fluff and I would like to make you look good here because if you've got a good project, then it
Appreciate
deserves
that.
that recognition. And it deserves to, we'll look at it. We're going to go through the process. We're going to see if this is a good thing. And if it is, then I want everybody who's going to watch this, because there's going to be some people who watch it now. There's going to be people watching it overnight because for some reason I have a big foreign market that just
Nice.
that overnight just starts watching videos. I go to sleep with a certain number in my head, and I wake up the next morning thinking that I should have like this many views, or the video should die or something like that. And the next morning there's just views and views and views. And I just, it's so crazy to me that, that people that people engage me like that. Like I appreciate that so much when I see it. So I want to make these tokens fly when they come to me. And not for nothing, in an hour from now, I'm going to be on a live stream, and I'm probably going to be talking about grifters. I'm going to be telling everybody this is what happened, what I went through today. And like last night, in 10 minutes, there were 200 people watching me as I was going over everything that was going on yesterday. And I mean, there's crazy stuff happening yesterday, so people were more engaged. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be out here and we talked about grifters for a couple days. I did an AMA with Robo Inu a little bit earlier. She was the original. I don't know if she was the original developer of Saitama, but she was the first COO before Russ got there,
Oh, okay.
and a very, very wonderful lady. And she's got this new token and this new process, this new everything, an entire
When does
ecosystem.
it launch, or has it
It has
launched?
already launched. It launched back in November.
Oh,
She's
okay.
one of those people who believes in that grassroots sort of that grassroots sort of thing. She's gone from in November just launching, soft launch even, no pre-sale, to having over 3,000 hodlers. And the funny thing is, if I were to pull up the chart and I were to show you the chart, you would, the first thing that you would think is, yeah, she doesn't need me. Because like their chart is, if you've ever seen Volt's chart,
No, I don't.
it looks almost like Volt's chart, where it's just, it hasn't, it's not a straight line going up, but it's one of those things where it goes up, consolidates down just a little bit, consolidates and goes up, consolidates and goes up, consolidates and goes up. The dips are just so small that when you look at it, you're like, wow, this thing has come a long way.
That's
And
cool. No, that's good. I think that that's one of the things about this space that's, I think it's far too rare. And being able to celebrate the successes of other projects, right? I mean,
yeah,
the market cap is big enough for everybody, right? We're talking, right? I think yesterday we went back up to a $2 trillion market cap
yeah,
for crypto, right? So, no, I mean, that's great to hear it. One thing that you did say, but I want to go back to it because I had some guy that was fudding me on Twitter earlier, and so I want everybody to know that yes, we did pay to do the AMA,
yep.
but we didn't pay any of the marketing and promo videos, anything that we're doing in native tokens. So can you validate that we did not pay you in native tokens?
Everything was paid in Ethereum.
That's right. So I think everybody sees that we've got, we're doing, I think 6 or 7 AMAs. We've got a handful of promo videos. We're doing a lot of marketing pre-launch. And I think one of the fears everybody has is that we paid for all of this using native tokens and that they're all going to dump on it. I think that those are people who aren't involved in this side of it. They would understand that Austin Hilton doesn't accept your native tokens, right?
Right,
Bleeves
right.
doesn't take your native tokens, right? They want Ethereum. They're a business just like everybody else, right? So, but I wanted to state that very clearly to the public that we did not pay native tokens. I'm not going to say there won't be a dump because it's the way it goes, but I can't control
There's
that.
an irony. There is an irony to this whole thing. It's and it is because people were paying in native tokens before, and one of those influencers, and again, it's those crazy influencers that don't really have followers. They want 1% of your total supply in order to do this launch for you or something like that, and then they'll do it, and then what they do is immediately sell.
Hmm.
And you get the cute girls with the pouty lips and the fish faces and stuff like that, and they're the influencers. And I've seen this so many times. What they do is they go in, they take your tokens instead of Ethereum or Tether, and bang, the next thing you know, they're like, oh, you know what, it's really high right now, what should I do? And then all of a sudden you just see a big red candle because they sell off. And it's this story as old as time. It's because there were not people in this space. Nobody protects anybody in this space. Like this is like you said earlier, I think, I don't know if we were live or not, but this is the Wild West. This is that time where everybody's walking around with their 6-shooter waiting for the next duel to come through, and there's not really a level of accountability and responsibility. And because the degen community is what it is, there's nobody really out there that protects anybody. There's a lot of people that want to, I think it was called Moonshot, Justin from Moonshot,
Hmm.
Tarp, that's what it is. Tarp, they want to protect people, but they're just tracking people. They're not really protecting people. There's another one. There's one that I know of that does, and they're like, if you hold enough of their tokens, and they're part of their development wallet is ins and outs. There's something that goes into like a recovery wallet or something like that, and it's if you're a holder of their token and you get rugged while you're a holder of their token, they will repay you whatever it is that you got rugged so that you get your money back.
My whole thing with all this is, and so our team is very interesting, right? So we've got,
Yeah,
on the Dow side, we've got Alec and Doc.
yeah.
Doc's a PhD, Alec's a, engineer, and amongst other things. So we've got the highly academic guys. We've got Travis. He's our local stoner. But
And
he's
every
a
development team has to have one.
but he's super smart. He's a guy. He's also a manager in our community, and he's got really good perspective. I've known Travis about as long as I've known anybody in the DeFi space. He and I were part of a group that were invested in stocks, before we came over to crypto kind of full time.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then, but then on the other side, we're DTC and Crypto Kiddo and Yearn, and there's a bunch of these guys that some are just kind of directly involved as advisors, and some are just kind of in the orbit and the sphere of influence. But those guys are the ones that sort of keep you intellectually honest, right? It's like
Yeah.
those sorts of things, which is you know, and this was really about 3.0 DAO, but it's about, not projecting our image of DeFi onto DeFi. DeFi was just fine before we got here. It'll be just fine after we're gone,
Yep.
and that's the problem that I have with some of these people. And I would even say even with the government and what they're attempting to do in Washington in terms of regulation and taxation and all of these other things that they're trying to bring into the fold. And I think that there's a heavy level or a healthy level of all of it, but there's the first step would be education before regulation, because I think there's just an education gap in terms of DeFi in Washington. So
I don't. I'm not a person who 100% doesn't trust the government. I'm just a person who doesn't trust this government that we have now
I
in
think that's
any
fair.
way. And it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. You should not trust the people in charge who are in charge right now. Not that everybody's out for themselves, but the level of influence is so great at this. We've broken democracy. We just haven't realized it yet. And
But
Babylon,
I think the rest of the world has realized that we broke it.
yeah,
Right. And I think you see the consequence of that right now,
Babylon
That's it.
hasn't fallen yet, but it's crumbling everywhere. Capitalism, because our level of capitalism involves so much corruption, we've distorted true capitalism. We've distorted the government. Everything is in just a piss poor shape. So I don't think that
You know what?
anything that they
That was
do,
a great PSA for 3.0 DAO. I need to get that. I'm going to record that. I'm going to put that on YouTube tomorrow.
there is no way that this government can reasonably manage cryptocurrency. They have
No.
no concept of it. Even the ones that are smart will get corrupted not by what they think, because I think that there are some guys that are good libertarians that believe in the principles of get the government out of your life. There's some good people in there, but they won't get the votes that they want on the things that they want. Our system will not tolerate freedom. It will tell you freedom while it controls you.
Well, and I'm not an advocate for CBDCs either, and I
Yeah,
had this conversation yesterday with this guy that has recently come into my network, and he's just an amazing guy to talk to, and
yeah,
he and I share a very similar viewpoint on that, in that it's good that that's being talked about, that we're
yeah.
actually having the digital currency conversation. But at the same time, it's a slippery slope for what that would involve, and I'm certainly not an advocate for that. But I like the things that they're doing at the state level in a lot of places, right? You've got a lot of advocates in Tennessee. Wyoming is sort of cutting edge. Whoever thought you'd say Wyoming is cutting edge at anything, right? But they are yeah.
Even the Dakotas.
It's I'm trying to think of her, Loomis, right? That's who it is, Loomis in Wyoming. I saw yesterday, maybe that was this morning. My days are kind of run together this week, but there's a bill that she's putting out that basically would limit regulation and various other things, and it looks like she's going to get a couple of Democrats to co-sponsor. So it might be an actual bipartisan piece of legislation, which is unthinkable in the current atmosphere, right?
Well, you know what? It's unthinkable on the national level.
Right.
On the grassroots level, there's still plenty of cooperation. You're just, there's two sides that have both been radicalized. Khalil, 10 o'clock, 10:15. I got a live going. We'll talk about Terra then. But like there's a lot of cooperation. We're just, again, we've been radicalized. There's this crazy group on one side, crazy group on the other side, and they're pulling people apart. And the more of them there are, the more unrealized all of our ideas are.
You see how that kind
And
of translates into DeFi without
yep,
without calling it out. Like you kind of see a very similar pretext,
yep.
But anyway, now let's. So one thing I do want to talk about while we're here is Grifters NFT, right?
Yeah, that
So
was my next question. Tell me about the NFTs.
yeah, so I can't tell you much, but what I can tell you is that we've commissioned with Rare Labs. So I don't know, how many of your listeners are familiar with Rare Labs. Rare Labs did the Rare Pepes. It's a derivative of the
Yeah,
Bored Ape Yacht Club and
yep,
the Pepes. I love the art's kind of weird, and it's like what you'd expect it to be for that type of a derivative. But the colors are vivid. The artist vision, you can see it. If you check out their Twitter, they've done some other commissions which are a bit different, but they're consistent in their use of color, their use of image, the use of like avatars and faces, and so for us, we looked at Rare Labs and said, it's kind of like a wish list.
yeah.
What's Plan B if we don't get them? And I reached out to them, and within about an hour, they had come back to me and said, "Hey, yeah, no, we're interested, and tell us more about your project." And so we talked through it with them, and they've submitted some early designs, and it's going to be. I can't tell you the concept because one, we it's you know how DeFi is, right? You
Yeah,
you put
yeah.
out an idea, then everybody wants to
If
copy
you
it, and
mention the idea right now, there's going to be 20 tokens with the same idea tomorrow. So yeah,
yeah,
I absolutely get that one.
so we're keeping that one close to the vest, but I promise you, it's one that people will be talking about when we drop it when we mint. The other thing is we partnered with Winmint.
Yeah,
Winmint will be doing the engineering side, the launchpad side.
yeah,
Yeah, those guys. I don't know if you know Quigley and Morpho and those iCar, the guys over at Winmint, man, they're not only, I mean, they're obviously brilliant engineering blockchain guys, but they're
yeah.
also lovers of NFTs, lovers of art, and they're just cool guys to talk to. And so I would encourage anybody to check if you have an idea, you're looking to launch an NFT, just chat with them. They can probably hook you up with an artist or something if you have an idea, right? But they're also going to come in. We've set up our Discord for Grifters NFT. They're going to come in, kind of do an audit, help us get everything ready for launch on the NFT. I'd say that'd be about mid-April is when we're looking to mint. So
Excellent. So, and quick story, one of their developers is actually a developer of smart contracts. So I'm familiar with them because as they were developing a smart contract for me a couple months ago, one of the things that he kept asking me was, "Are you into NFTs? Because we could put you on Winmint and get you like up and running like right away." And I'm like, "Dude, I said I know that they're a necessity, but for me right now, it's not in my wheelhouse. Let me have somebody else talk to you about that." And like what I did, we still haven't even launched yet, so I think that's the platform that we're going to be on. At one point, they were developing like potions. They were developing um, like consumables. Like that was their focus. They were making NFT consumables, not for a specific game, but that you could integrate into your game.
oh, okay, I got you.
And,
That's
and
cool.
then like they were putting it into the contract, and then all they had to do was just go into that contract and change it to whatever suits your game. And like it's pretty neat. They just have to all they had to do was reskin it and change a couple things into the contract, and then it became your like a mana potion or a health potion or something like that, or a stim pack. You could call it whatever you wanted. You could do whatever you wanted. Like they had all kinds of different ideas that they were going with. It was pretty neat. It was a pretty great
That's
concept.
cool.
So let's
Yeah,
talk.
that's cool. Those
Let's
guys
talk
are
about the supply here.
okay.
Launch is
Sure.
going to be tomorrow, 11:45 Eastern
Yeah, Pacific.
Pacific. All right, so that's going to be about 1:45 my time. Now, why 45? Are you just trying to get a head start, or are you starting like an hour early and it takes 40 minutes and
No, wait. So this is actually a good point to sort of plug one of the things that we did. I think that's unique is that our contract is verified and live on EtherScan right now. Has been for two
gotcha.
days, right?
Okay.
So people can go check it out. We've already done airdrops. Everything is fully transparent, right? And we did that on purpose
Yeah.
in order to, because that's one of my biggest. I guess, issues with aping into projects at launch and not being able to review contracts and do that,
Yeah.
right? And then we just thought this, that's a cool way to do it. And we also lock liquidity for a year pre-launch. One of the advantages to doing that is that we've also we're already in the queue for CMC as well. So basically, as soon as we launch, CMC should be shortly thereafter. So it'll be good.
Right. Right.
But yeah. So total supply is one quad. We did 20% was the private sale, was a 40 ETH hard cap.
Yeah.
One of the questions that we get a lot is what was max buy? What are because everybody wants to understand what the risk is from pre-sellers, because
Absolutely.
pre-sellers are notorious for dumping. I feel pretty good about ours, and I'll tell you why. So we did a two max buy, two ETH max, which would be the equivalent of 1%. Yeah, 1%. So it was 1 ETH was equal to 0.5%. But we had a 40 ETH cap, and we had 48 buyers, I believe.
Yeah.
So 90% of our buyers were a half ETH or an ETH. So we didn't have a whole lot of max buys. And so from a risk standpoint, I'm not going to say it's not there, but I would say it's minimal. And we knew, I would say I knew 60 to 70% of the buyers, before we opened it up to Telegram. So it was,
Excellent. Should also look up CVC. I'm pretty sure you probably know who they are by now. Look for
I've seen Sandstorm putting those out, and I saw Austin Hilton on there the other day. I think maybe.
Yeah, it's a big time project. Keith over at CoinViewCap. That you can pull it up right now and you can actually look at it. It's a working, functioning alternative to CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. But let's say that you launch this token and it immediately takes off. One of the problems that you face is that CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, because you have reflections, they will not list you with an accurate ranking. They will fight you every step of the way, and they will keep you in like a box saying that you're in you rank like 3,116th, even though your market cap might have you in the top 500. So you're going to have trouble connecting with new audience that are just scrolling down looking for gems to make plays on. Like, that's one of the real world problems that you have when Binance controls where your information comes from. And CoinViewCap, which is launching April 1st, they're trying to get into this market and to do something for the DeFi community. So every 24 hours, they're going to update the listings so that, like, let's say you have the number 50 ranked token on the planet. You're going to be in the 50th position tomorrow on his ranking system. And whoever's on Binance CoinMarketCap at 50, they're going to be on 50. They're going to be at 51 on his ranking chart. And he's going to update that thing every single day to make sure that the DeFi community is well represented. And because there is, even though we're a small market, because there's a lot of money here, this is a big time project. And I think he did a 1,500 ETH pre-sale, sold out in 26 hours.
Wow.
On Pulo. So anybody, hopefully.
How do you spell Pulo?
POOLO.io. Most people, when they talk about it, they'll say they'll say Pulio, but it's Pulo.io.
The reason why I asked this, and this is a complete aside, but this just tells you about the way my mind works. So a couple of years ago, I had this idea. I own the domain for Pulo.com, which is pool, like a pillow for the swimming pool. So like I went to this whole sort of entrepreneurial exercise for Pulo. That's why I was asking. But no, I'd appreciate it if you'll DM me his info. It would be good to hook up, and because one, I want to talk to him about his raise, because I've got another project that's coming up that's it's going to be a monster, and I don't want to get into it today, but we're going back and forth in that we're either going to fund it directly ourselves, or we're going to do a really big raise like Terra did, and so we're going back and forth with that, and I'm trying to work through the advantages, because anytime you start talking about venture capital and ownership and all that sort of stuff, you're usually better off not to get funded if you can, so.
Well, and you know what? At this point, I'll tell you what. 3 weeks ago, I would have told you, like, I'm not involved in pre-sales, but pre-sales since then have been very good to me. So I'm actually I'm actually interested in any kind of pre-sales, and I mean, I want a project. I always want projects that are good, which ironically, I seem to always find. And so I've got, um, just from all the different things that are coming out, I've got bags everywhere. I guess is the easy way to say
So
it.
there are worse problems to have, man.
I'll tell you what, we were at, uh, we were, most people say if you have $1,000 and you're supposed to have like 3 tokens. And if you have like $10,000, you should have like 5 or 6 tokens. Yeah. If you have 50,000, you should have like 7 or 8 tokens max. And people were like, how many tokens you got, Bleeves? Yeah, 38. But I'm a long-term holder for most of that. Like, it's not like I'm in and out of projects all the time. I throw something at it, and like I might take my initial investment and let the rest ride at some point so that I can make another play on it. But then I just kind of leave it sit and let and like just keep that investment in there so that that thing has an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, no, I'm an advocate of the what you said in terms of you take out your initial investment, you know, scaling profits out is healthy because it allows you to buy back in on dips, right? So you can
Yes.
add to your bag on dips, and one, I think that's good for the community, and it's just good for your, for your portfolio, So
Especially if you're one of those people who has a belief in a project. If I'm a believer in the Grifters project and it launches tomorrow, and I have a big bag of 1% of the tokens, and then I sell off 0.5%, it might dip it down, but then a few other people are going to sell out, and then I'm going to buy back in with that half, with that 5, whatever I make off of that, and then I'm going to have 1.1%
right,
and
right,
continue to accumulate. And you may not want more than 1% or something like that for most people, but for your big time holders who are going to be there for a long period of time, those are the people that you want to have control of those things, and you want them to be responsible whales, which is
yeah,
rare.
yeah. Well, we saw those. That was that Terra that was like a 300 plus ETH that dump, and that's I saw part of Ryan's live stream last night where he was talking kind of through the fundamentals of it, and it doesn't appear to be nearly as nefarious as everybody makes it out to be,
It's
but
absolutely not. It's somebody who
and
was
it's none of my
brand new.
business.
Yeah, it was somebody who like so here's the thing. I mean, there's always those people that want conspiracy because that conspiracy, for some of us in YouTube, it drives viewers. People want to see that conspiracy. That's why this guy came in and asked me about speculation on Terra, because everybody wants to know my opinion on Terra tonight, because I'm one of their big guys and I do a lot of videos on them and I have a lot of followers and I get a lot of views. I'll put it this way: for 7,000 holders, my last video got 2,000 views. So,
Nice.
I mean, almost everybody involved with Terra at this point is coming to me just to see what I have to say about it. So,
Yeah, I
and
talked to Tammy. I guess maybe that was Sunday. I reached out to her
yeah,
and then she's the one that actually hooked me up with Rodney. We did an AMA with Rodney on Monday as well.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
Rodney.
I think it's funny, and and I don't want to be a conspiracy theory guy, but there's, and I'm not talking about Saitama or Terra, either one. It's
Yeah,
just in general, because you had the same thing with Shib at one point, and the same thing with Shinji at one point, where you have these rivalries that kind of pop up between projects,
right.
and I wonder how much of that is actually sort of contrived and orchestrated, because whenever you have that, you drive volumes, and the people who win when you drive volumes are the devs and the marketing teams for these projects, right? I mean that.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that that's the case on any of these, but typically when you're talking about politics or conflicts, or you can generally follow the money, right? And that's generally a
Yes.
good practice, So
Well, I
I
can
don't
tell
know.
you this. I can tell you on an insider perspective, when Shibnobi and Saitama were going at it a while back, and you could see people exiting Saitama and going to Shibnobi, and then people exiting Shibnobi and going back to Saitama, neither one of them cared.
No, they did. Their marketing wallets were
Neither,
like
exactly.
they look like
Neither.
Scrooge McDuck. They were swimming in money. It's
Yeah,
like,
your natural opinion is, God, they must hate each other. And I had somebody tell me literally, "Fuck no, I don't hate them. That's the best thing that's ever happened to us."
yeah, Yeah, but I didn't understand that until I got on this side of the the
Yeah.
dev curtain, right? And when you're on the investor side, you're really concerned about those candles and the charts, and when you're on the dev side, you're worried about volume because you have to pay people, and everything costs money when you're on the dev side, and you need
Yes.
revenue to be able to do that. So
Yeah. But it's a
anyway,
buy or a sell. That's all they're worried about.
right, right. That's why they have taxes on both sides of it. So
The enemy of the developer is apathy.
yeah, when nobody cares,
Right.
absolutely,
When nobody
absolutely.
cares, that's when you're going to have trouble. So you got to move that needle, make people care. Um, hey, Tavares, what's going on, man? Hey, man, Grifters, good project. Thanks, Plankton. So remember, there you go, man. Just remember that one right there. Just remember, Bleeves is always right.
The crypto shop. I owe him a DM, man. He messaged me after the Rodney AMA on Monday, and I
Yeah,
definitely want to hook up with him too. I like what he's doing over there.
he is. He's the resident TA guy in all of our stuff right now. He's
Okay.
like I'll we'll be doing something. I'm like, Tavares, when do I sell? What's the top? And he's like, go to my channel and figure it out, man. I'll be posting a video on it in a few minutes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the sort of the underutilized aspects of DeFi, and when you trade stocks and even in OTC, charting is important, right? Being able to do
Yeah.
some level of at least basic TA is very important, and you know, crypto, you certainly have the same, yeah, and that's actually what got me out of SHIB at the top. I started looking at that chart and I realized we were about to head south in the RSI, and that's so I made a nice little chunk off that, and that was because of TA, and there's a
Yeah.
guy Meta, he's kind of tied in with Bo and DT. I don't know if you know all these guys, Bo and DTC and Kiddo, and there's Meta and but Meta's a TA guy, and on his stuff, he does a lot of TA, and he's a smart guy, sharp guy, to chat with. So.
Yeah, there you go. Tavares Hobbs yesterday, he was talking. They a couple days ago. We were talking Apecoin, and he was calling it 1050. And he said if it goes below 1050, buy it up. And it went to like 9 something. Like it was down in that like 950, 960 range. I think it might even hit 8 at one point. And
I thought it was around 940 is when I checked it
right,
occasionally, and it was around.
and I'm so into all these other bullshit things that I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit on this one on the sidelines. I'm gonna move because I have this little bag on a different on a different wallet, and I was like, I'm gonna move it over to Ape. And when I tried to move it over to Ape, the transaction failed, and I was like, oh well, I guess it's not meant to be.
I
And
I
then
do the same. I do the same thing though, man. I you just got to trust the universe because it's usually
yeah,
right.
some just telling me not to do it, and now it's trading at like $14 or something like that.
I
Yeah,
you
there you
know
go,
I
double
was
bottom.
I was gonna say I was reading about that what they're about Yuga. One of the guys put we have a couple of dev chats, and one of the guys posted in there about Yuga, and man, they started out with they had like in January, I think they had like 11 employees. Now they're shit. I don't know. I think Ape it's a top 50 coin right now, and I think that their market cap is
Yeah, their market cap at $11 was like 1.7 billion.
it's
So at
crazy, man.
14, that's going to put another 30. So that's two and a half. That's like 2.3. I don't know. What's the
That's
market cap, Hobbs? Like that's going to be a fairly big number for them.
I think that's a really cool project, and just I don't I obviously I can't afford a bake anyway. It'd have been nice to get on those airdrops, but I mean, what
2.3. Man, I called that exactly. God damn, I'm good at math.
what they're doing over there with with this Ape DAO and
Yeah.
I guess I told you about 3.0 DAO and what they're doing in the Web3 space. I think it's just a really interesting. I'd never seen a project that launched and basically same day was on Coinbase and KuCoin and all the major exchange, Binance. They were on all the major exchanges. But that shows you, whenever you do the right level of planning and you have the right level of money and influence,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that's but
That's
they're
exactly
doing some
right.
really interesting things over there as well.
And Hobbs, remember, I just called that from my brain, man. Remember that when we're talking math later. Woo! I'm a math nerd, so stuff that makes no sense to most people, I'm like doing the problem in my head and figuring it out, and like I do math tricks on. One of my subscriptions is to a YouTube channel that teaches you how to do math shortcuts, so you can do like long multiplication problems really quickly and stuff like that. Just learning shortcuts on how to do stuff. So
Yeah, I do that
I
as well
love that
in my
stuff.
head. I say I do that in
Right.
my head as well. Let's see. So one thing I do want. So tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning at 10, and I'm waiting for him to get back to me. But there's a Japanese footballer who he's playing soccer in Europe right now. But he's a Japanese. Uh, Twitter is his name escapes me right now. Takahashi, I believe, is his name. He um, he messaged me today. So he actually approached me about this other project that I mentioned because we
Yeah.
got the Twitter up and stuff, and
Yeah.
he approached me about it and he wanted to know if it was live, and I told him no. I said, but we were getting ready to launch Grifters, and he says, oh no, I've seen that one too. I've looked at your website, I looked at your white paper. He's like, that's cool, and I said,
Yeah.
well, hey, why don't you set up an AMA with us with your Japanese community? And he said, okay, I'll do that. And so I said, so I'm still waiting on him to get back to me. So I think that we might be doing an AMA at 10 a.m. on Spaces tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time with the Japanese community. And then we've got an AMA with Ryan Patrick at
Yep.
11 a.m. Pacific. And we're going to launch the token kind of in the middle of that with him. So you asked earlier, was there a reason for 11:45? And that's really just an approximation. We're thinking somewhere between 11:30 and 12, and it'll really be because we've got everything's out live. So really, we're at a
Yep.
point now where devs just got to hit enable trading, and we're good to go.
Yep.
So it won't be that, but I think it'll just really be kind of based on where we're at in the conversation with Ryan, and then at that point we'll drop it in Telegram, and then we'll let all of Ryan's audience know as well. So
All right.
after that, at 12 Pacific, so 3 Eastern, we've got another AMA with your boy Sandstorm,
Yep.
and then at I believe it's at 3 Pacific, we're jumping in with Mr. Bird as well. So we've got a full day of of AMAs tomorrow, and Austin Hilton is going to be dropping a promo at some point tonight or in the morning. His son had a blowout with his braces, and so he
Yeah.
he got distracted today. So, but we're expecting a promo from Ryan or from Austin as well. So
Well, tomorrow night, you can see Austin on Thirsty Thursday with us.
okay,
He's going to be having, so I can assure you, because so many of us are over there, you're going to be one of the tokens that gets that little shout out as we go. And as a matter of fact, depending on how this launch goes, we're going to probably be having people just going like, hey man, and they're going to be talking about grifters all day long on live streams as it launches, because people are going to be interested and fascinated
good.
to see how it plays out. Like
Well,
that's
good.
kind of how this thing goes. Like Hobbs will be on there, and like we just pop around. Like we've created a community now, and we just kind of pop around to each other and sit on each other's channels and just talk and try to figure out crypto. You never figure it out, but you always try to.
Yeah, I watched probably the first half hour of your Thirsty Thursday last week because it was St. Patrick's Day, and I
My
had
camera was
that's
broke.
was it? Yeah, I was on there. It was but I had talked to Ryan earlier that day, and
Yeah,
Sandstorm as well, and so I tuned in just to check it out, and I like what you guys are doing over there. It's a
yep,
good vibe. It's good energy. I think
yeah.
that's important.
So you want to make a final statement here, kind of wrap this up, put a bow on this, so that people know exactly what it is they can expect.
Sure. Yeah. And I like to keep this simple, right? The message is simple. This is not a highly complex, overly technical project, right? We are a community driven project, but we're also a business, right? We understand that if you're an investor, you want to understand the business case of what we're doing. Um, Crypto redemption, it benefits DeFi, but it also has direct benefits to our community. We're going to be adding new holders as we, help out these other communities. When then we'll also be pulling revenue back into the project, which is, passive income, residual income, whatever you want to call it, for the life of these projects will be coming back in. That money will allow us to continue to buy buy back our own tokens and burn them. 11:45 a.m. Pacific time approximately is when we're going to launch tomorrow. If you're in Telegram, you'll get the first notice. So, but we'll announce it on the during Ryan's live stream too, within probably 30 seconds of Telegram. So, anyway, I appreciate you having me on, Bleeves. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on. I appreciate that. And for anybody out here listening, from me to you, this is one of those projects where they've made an investment in letting people know what it is that they have to offer. They've been open, forthright about everything that they've got going on, what they're doing. There's a roadmap, there's an agenda, there's a reason for them to exist. This is one of those types of things where you want to make a play on it. I'm going to make a play on it. I didn't get it on the pre-sale because I'm apparently an idiot and I didn't even know about it. Um, but I'm going to be in it on
We'll get you in on the next one.
yeah, get me in on that next one. But for the launch tomorrow, I'm going to go in as quickly as I can early in the beginning. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. And you guys know that by now. We're going to wait for the dip. There's going to be a little bit of a dip. There always is. I'm going to buy in on that dip and we're going to see where this thing goes. I'm a long-term hodler, so I'm just going to sit back, enjoy my bag, and wait to see what happens. So
what I would say is one last thing is
yeah,
there are no constraints necessarily on buying in, but I know that there are people who when they ape, they mean they ape in, right? And so there is no max buy, but there is a max wallet of 5%, right? So no wallet can hold over 50 trillion tokens. So that's a sizable buy, but just in case.
all right. I'll do the math before.
You get your boy Hobbs on there.
Yeah. Hey man, tell me what it is. All right, guys. It's not financial advice. Always remember that. Take your profits on the way up. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And remember the most important thing, I'm Bleeves, and I'm always right. You guys have a good night.
Thanks.